Hello everybody! Today I'm going to show you how I altered this dress into a few different things. That's today on Refashioning with Rachel. So I had this dress that I made that was not that flattering, but I still had some fabric left over, so I decided to alter it a little and see if I could make it into something cuter. First, I put in a pin where my hip was, then folded the dress in half, and made a mark all along the hem up to where I put the pin. And I cut that part off. And I also cut out 2 little notches to mark the center front and center back. Then I turned the dress inside out and folded it in half again. And I used a dress that was more fitted to retrace in the side seams. I thought the original dress was a little too loose, so I thought this alteration would make it cuter. And I just cut around the tighter dress, adding 1/2 inch for seam allowance. And I sewed the new side seams. I used a zigzag stitch so that it would stretch with the fabric. And I just made that stitch blend right into the stitch I made previously, right up to the armhole. Then I measured the bottom of this and multiplied it by 2 to get the circumference of my waist, even though it's a dropped waistline, so it's really the circumference of my hips. Now, if you don't like math, go ahead and fast forward this part. There are a bunch of charts online that you can use to find the dimensions for a circle skirt. But basically here, the circumference was 35 inches, and I wanted to make a half circle skirt where the curve of the waist would have to equal 35 inches. So that means for a full circle, the circumference would be 70 inches. And to get the radius for such a circle, we would have to divide 70 by 2 and by pi, minus 1/2 inch for seam allowance, which is about 10.5 inches. And then I took a measurement from my hip and decided how long I wanted the skirt to be, which was 12 inches. And so that plus the inner radius was 22.5 inches. So these are the 2 numbers we care about, 10.5 and 22.5 inches. So I folded my extra fabric in half. And I didn't want to include this white stuff at the top, so I just drew a line right there. And then from the folded corner, I measured out and made a mark 22.5 inches away from that corner, radiating out into a curve. And I did the same thing, 10.5 inches away from the same corner. And then I cut along those lines. And then I sewed up the back seam. Then I cut in some notches to mark the center front and the side seams. And I pinned the skirt to the bodice with right sides together and with all the notches lining up. And then I sewed that all together. And then all that was left to do was to hem the bottom, which I did by folding up the raw edge just one time and securing with a stitch. Okay, so at this point the dress was finished, but I really didn't think it was flattering at all. So after a few days, I cut it apart and made it into two other things, which I did not catch on camera. But basically, I cut it right here at the waist and repeated the same steps for the circle skirt that I did before and ended up with this dress. It ended up a little short and I might add a ruffle to it, or maybe not. And then with the bottom half of the dress, I simply added a waistband and kept it as a skirt. So I apologize if this video was a little bit convoluted and confusing, but sometimes that's how sewing is. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe if you did, and have a beautiful day.